real negotiation. Yeah, but they don't want to negotiate. Paige Beckers was pissed about that. Paige Beckers literally was like, both sides, no one's actually negotiating. We're not negotiating. Like, that is the biggest problem with all this. And I think that's where the players are kind of coming from, is that nobody is negotiating. When it comes down to the players, they're not negotiating. When it comes down to the league, they're not negotiating.
Nobody is negotiating. That's not speculation. That's not hyperbole. That's the reality of where the WNBA and its Players Association stand right now. And what we're watching unfold isn't a negotiation at all. It's a calculated game of optics, public perception, and strategic stalling. Both sides are playing hot potato with proposals, waiting for the other to look worse in the public eye.
Potato theory seems to be accurate. I've said this, that the league are looking for public opinion, gotcha moments, and brownie points. This is my opinion on this situation, is that it's not the league, sorry, the players. The player or the PA. I'm going to, if I ever say the players, I'm referring to the PA. The PA wants their brownie points so that they can say, look, the league stalled. And yes, the league did stall 6 weeks. Both sides are wrong.
Here's where things get revealing. The league responded to the players' latest proposal within 24 hours. That's a dramatic shift from the 6-week silence that preceded it. The Players Association took 2 weeks to respond to the league's previous offer. So why the sudden urgency? Because both sides realize they're not actually trying to reach an agreement right now. They're trying to control the narrative about who's blocking progress.
The rumor is that the players don't want to strike, but they want the league to lock them out. Because again, there's two different things. If the league locks them out, there is more sympathy towards the players, and I think there are certain benefits that they don't get if they strike. I think there are certain types of things if the league locks them out that they get with that being the case. I don't know for sure. But all the reporting has been how the players are pushing for the league.
The Players Association wants the league to lock them out, not strike, get locked out. There's a critical distinction here that changes everything about how this plays out publicly. When players strike, they're seen as the aggressors, the ones disrupting the season. But when ownership locks them out, suddenly the players become the victims, the workers being denied the chance to play. It's better optics, and there are specific benefits and protections that apply during a lockout that don't apply during a strike. All the reporting over the past month has confirmed this strategy. The Players Association is pushing the league toward a lockout scenario because they believe it gives them the moral high ground in the court of public opinion.
Like, the union have effectively sent the same proposal back 4 times in a row, and the league have effectively sent the same proposal back. And in fairness, when it comes to the league are conceding on every single thing other than the revenue percentage. The league have conceded on everything. Why? Because they can afford to concede on everything, because any of their concessions come out of gross revenue. Like, are part of gross revenue. Like, what would end up happening is if the league made all the concessions to the players and gave the players a gross revenue split, is that the league would go bankrupt within a year. Like, I think we all kind of get that. And the thing is, the players, I don't think, necessarily care if the owners lose.
Let's be clear about what's actually happening with these proposals. The union has effectively sent back the same proposal 4 consecutive times. The league has done the same thing. Neither side is budging on the core issue, which is revenue percentage. Everything else, travel accommodations, maternity benefits, practice facility standards, the league is willing to concede on all of it. Why? Because every single one of those concessions comes out of the gross revenue pool anyway. If the league agreed to every player demand except the revenue split percentage, they'd go bankrupt within a year. That's not an exaggeration. That's basic math. And the players know this.
And the thing is, the players, I don't think, necessarily care if the owners lose a whole bunch of money. Like, that's the one thing. I think long-term not caring about that could fuck them, but they don't care. And to be fair, most workers don't care if their companies make money. They just want to make money. At the end of the day, it is what it is.
Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Most players don't care if the owners lose money. That might sound harsh, but it's reality. Most workers in any industry don't care about their employer's profit margins. They care about their own paycheck. The difference is that in most industries, if the company goes under, everyone loses their job. In professional sports, the calculation is different. Players at the end of their careers want one last big payday, and they're willing to push the league to the brink to get it. Angela McCoughtry said this explicitly on a podcast. Players near retirement are going to hold out because they want that final paycheck. She wasn't being critical. She was just stating the obvious reality of the situation.
Hopefully if W is finally offered over 20%. Can we just bring out the calculator again? People are like, why don't you use Excel for this? It's not as fun. Let's go with gross revenue at 20%. At 20%. So, for the league to come up with 70% of net revenue being 14%. So, 0.7 of profit equals 14%. Therefore,
now let's talk about the numbers that are breaking this negotiation. The players want 20% of gross revenue, not net revenue, gross revenue. To understand why that's a problem, you need to understand what the league's current financials actually look like. Based on the Players Association's own numbers, 70% of net revenue equals 14% of gross revenue. That's their calculation, not the league's. So if you give players 20% of gross revenue right off the top, before any expenses are paid, the league breaks even. Zero profit, not reduced profit, minus zero profit.
Total profit is 14% of the gross revenue. Therefore, the total profit equals 20%. So, if you take 20% of gross revenue, you have the total profit is, so X equals revenue, X minus 0.8X equals profit equals 0.2X. But if you give the players 20% of gross rev off rip, X minus 0.8X or plus brackets 0.2X equals 0.
And that calculation doesn't account for the league's accumulated losses over the past 27 years. The WNBA has been in the red by hundreds of millions of dollars since its founding in 1997. The NBA subsidized those losses for decades. Now that the WNBA is finally approaching profitability, the players want to take all of it immediately, leaving nothing to pay back those accumulated debts or invest in growth. It's not sustainable, and both sides know it's not sustainable. But the players don't care about sustainability right now. They care about maximizing their current earnings.
The players want 20% of expansion fees. They want expansion fees included in this. You can't get 20% of expansion fees. Why? Because the purpose of expansion fees because every single bit of revenue gets diluted amongst the extra teams. And if any, like the expansion fees, what that ends up happening is that things, individual teams and individual investors will make less money because their shares are being diluted.
Then there's the expansion fee issue, which reveals just how far apart these two sides really are. The players want 20 to 25% of all expansion fees included in their revenue share. That's a complete non-starter for ownership. And here's why. Expansion fees exist specifically to compensate existing owners for the dilution of their equity stake. When you add a new team to the league, every existing team's share of league revenue gets smaller. Their piece of the pie shrinks. The expansion fee is how you make existing owners whole for accepting that dilution. If you give 20% of expansion fees to players, you remove the entire incentive for owners to vote for expansion in the first place.
Like labor and, getting people jobs. Like, you're creating jobs. Expansion teams is creating jobs. At the end of the day, it's irrelevant to the players. It is irrelevant to the players. And, Angel McCautry basically said on a podcast, she pretty much said that, the players at the end of their career want one last pay. Like, not in a negative way, but factually just said it. Like, the players at the end of their career will hold out because they want one last big paycheck.
Think about what expansion actually creates. One new team adds roughly 50 direct jobs. Players, coaches, training staff, front office personnel. But that's just the beginning. You've got arena staff, game day operations, facility maintenance workers, media relations teams, marketing departments. Each expansion team creates hundreds of jobs, many of them going to people who aren't millionaire athletes. From a pure labor perspective, expansion is one of the best things the league can do. It creates opportunities for hundreds of workers. But if you eliminate the financial incentive for owners to approve expansion by taking their compensation and giving it to players, you're effectively killing future expansion. No expansion means fewer jobs for everyone, players included. The Players Association hasn't addressed this contradiction. They want expansion because it creates more roster spots, but they also want to take the money that makes expansion financially viable for ownership.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, lads. They're getting back very quick, and I'm guessing we won't hear anything anytime soon from, because if Alexa Philippou's not leaking this, we're probably not going to see it leaked.
Here's what we're really watching. A negotiation where both sides have decided that looking good matters more than reaching an agreement. The league waited 6 weeks to respond to a proposal, which was wrong. The Players Association submitted the same proposal twice without modification, which was also wrong, but neither side pushed for face-to-face meetings. Neither side demanded real-time negotiations. They were both content to let the clock run out because delay served their strategic interests. Paige Beckers called this out directly. She said both sides aren't actually negotiating. And she's right. This isn't a negotiation, it's a public relations battle disguised as collective bargaining. The league has what you might call a nuclear option sitting in their back pocket. It's not confirmed, but the pattern suggests they have a final proposal ready to go, a take-it-or-leave-it offer that they're prepared to present with a lockout threat attached. Either the players accept it, or they come back with a counteroffer that's substantively similar, or the league locks them out. That's the endgame here. The league is betting that when it comes down to actually missing paychecks, the players will blink first. The players are betting that public sympathy will force the league to cave. Both sides are wrong about the other's breaking point, which is why this is heading toward a work stoppage. And here's the final piece that tells you everything about where this is headed. If Alexa Philippou isn't leaking proposal details, we're probably not going to see them leaked. The fact that negotiations have gone quiet in the media doesn't mean they've stalled. It means both sides have agreed to stop using reporters as weapons in their PR war. That's actually a positive sign that real talks might be happening behind closed doors. But the clock is ticking. Training camps are supposed to start in late April. Free agency needs to open before that. The draft is in mid-April. If there's no CBA agreement by early March, the entire timeline for the 2025 season falls apart. So what's going to break this standoff? It's not going to be either side suddenly developing good faith. It's going to be the calendar forcing their hand. When missing games becomes a real possibility, when players start calculating actual lost income, when owners start facing the prospect of empty arenas they're contractually obligated to pay for, that's when the posturing stops and real negotiation begins. The players want that final big payday, especially the veterans near retirement. The owners want to finally see return on investment after 27 years of losses. Both positions are understandable. Both positions are also completely incompatible with the league's current financial reality. Something has to give. The question is whether it gives through actual negotiation or through the leverage of a work stoppage. Based on everything we've seen so far, the strategic delays, the identical repeated proposals, the focus on public perception over substantive compromise, this is heading toward a lockout. The league will present their final offer. The players will reject it. The league will lock them out. Public pressure will build. And somewhere in that pressure cooker, probably after a few weeks of missed games and lost paychecks, both sides will finally get serious about finding middle ground. That's not cynicism. That's just how labor negotiations work when both sides care more about winning than compromising. And right now, both the WNBA and the WNBPA care a lot more about winning this negotiation than they care about the fans who are going to suffer through a delayed or shortened season. So where do you stand on this? Do you think the players deserve 20% of gross revenue, even if it means the league operates at zero profit? Or do you think the owners have a right to see returns after decades of losses before players take a bigger share? You can't say both sides are right, the math doesn't work. Pick a side and tell me why in the comments. Because this is about to get a lot messier before it gets better.